Greetings everyone, hope you're doing well today. For today's video I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and that is show you a little bit of what I do as a therapist and talk to you a little bit about, why I do it, why I love it so much. What I'm doing for this specific client is neuromuscular alignment, neuromuscular training. So we're going through her range of motion, but as we're moving her through her range of motion, I'm having her push back, resist against my hand. And what that's doing is helping me test where she's stable in her range of motion. Additionally, when she applies this resistance, it activates her muscles, right? So it activates her nervous system. So it allows her to feel an activation while her muscles are being elongated, which is very different than what we usually do, right? We try to isolate the two. We try to stretch and then we try to work out, like lift weights or something, right? We isolate our elongations from our contractions. But it's very powerful to combine the two because then you build strength and stability through your whole range of motion. And also, what I've seen doing this for many years now, been doing this for about just over 5 years now. And what I've seen is people have a lot of stored trauma in various parts of their range of motion. And this can have to do with injuries, of course, but also emotional traumas, memories, thoughts, even things like that can affect the range of motion. Because if someone, for example, is very fearful or anxious, if you take them to a range of motion, a part of their range of motion that they're not familiar with, they'll freak out, even if their body is capable of moving through that range of motion very comfortably. So it's important to see these things, and I train my clients I teach them to breathe deeply and calmly through the discomfort. See, in our culture, we're taught to cover up the symptoms, right? If you're hurting, take a painkiller. If you have heartburn, take an antacid. It just covers up the symptom. It doesn't address the root cause. But when you address the root cause, you really have to confront the situation. And when we have a lot of trauma in the body, when we have a lot of tension in the body, we have to be able to move into that range of motion where we feel it, feel the discomfort, confront the discomfort, process that feeling, and let it out through the breath. When we consciously bring our attention to those places of discomfort as we do stretching or, therapy in this case, when we bring our attention to it, only then is it possible to let it go. Because what happens is, when we don't deal with things, they get stored in our subconscious, they get stored in our muscle memory. Because oftentimes life doesn't pause, life doesn't pause for us. We have to keep going. And that can be very challenging. So what the body does is it just kind of puts all the traumas, puts all the things that would, stop you from moving forward. It'll just put them in your subconscious. It'll just store them in your muscle memory. And yeah, you'll feel them, but you'll be able to keep moving on. So it's still, it's really important to do stretching, or in this case, neuromuscular alignment through resistance stretching, because it removes all that trauma. You could even go through something like, let's say you had a very traumatic childhood and you were able to process it, okay? Like you went to therapy or you just did the right type of counseling or self-help to process it. Decades after you've processed that trauma and you're psychologically, you're doing fine, you could still be storing it in your body decades after. Trauma gets stored in many layers, and we have to address all of them. And that's what I see a lot of people don't do, I met a lot of people that have gone to spirituality or religion to find peace. And it works, if it works for you, it works. But you also have to address the problem on a physiological level, right? And that's what I see a lot of people aren't doing, is addressing the problem physiologically. Yes, you can get over things, you can move on with things in life, but that trauma gets stored in your body and you have to release it somehow. And in order to release it properly, we have to release it in layers. There's a process to it. We have to ask permission to the body so that, it opens up and it communicates, it's receptive to the therapies that we do. Um, if you have knots, right? There's no point in doing some like abusive deep tissue if you haven't done the proper type of, range of motion exercises, stability exercises before digging into that tissue. So, there's definitely a process to doing things, and that's why working with an expert is so great. Um, and even as someone who can do this for others, I very much like having someone else do this for me because there's just so many things you can't do on your own. And especially if you're struggling with your range of motion. These are my favorite kinds of clients, honestly. Like, I love working with people who, are having difficulty, but are ready to rediscover their potential. When you work with a therapist one on one and you do it, regularly for even a short period of time, you can see huge upgrades, huge benefits in your range of motion, in your flexibility, in your strength, your stability, your posture. I've had a lot of people tell me that they're pain free. I've seen a lot of people's inflammation and swelling go down just throughout the whole body. So, this is what I love to do. I love to help people experience their best life. It all starts with our bodies. I'll share with you something I found very interesting. There's a yogi, he's passed away now, but his name is BKS Iyengar. And I don't remember if it was like one of his books. I think it was his book, but it could have been an interview as well, where he said people in America need or feel the desire to have a lot of things or live in a big house, have big cars because they don't take up all this space in their body. They feel stuck, they feel limited in their bodies. And that's very true. A lot of clients I've worked on in the US or just people in general, honestly, in the Western world have a lot of tension just stored in their body, and that can be very restricting and constricting. Once we remove that tension, you feel very spacious. It's very luxurious. You feel abundant. And I've noticed, at least for me, as I've continued working on my body, the healthier I am, the happier I am. The happier I am, the less I need for things. Um, I feel more content. I feel more balanced. And that's also why I love doing these therapies. It just completely changes your consciousness. A lot of times we think that we think with our brains, but the reality is we think with our whole body. When you feel terrible, your thoughts aren't the best, right? They're usually not as productive, not as positive, because you're in pain. Yeah, we absolutely think with our bodies. And when we're feeling good, when our bodies are feeling great, like after you get a massage or something or do some yoga, you feel great. Look at how good your thoughts are. So we definitely think with our whole bodies, with our guts. And so when we do therapy, when we do stretching, assisted stretching, resistance stretching, it completely changes the outlook of the person, like their outlook on life. So that's my little spiel, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little snippet of some therapy I was doing for a client. Um, yeah, anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Many blessings.